But the bottom line is, if somebody wants to go shoot somebody, it's going to be very difficult to stop them from doing that.
If you don't react, you're not going to survive.
Think about what I can do right now in this situation if it happens.
There is no one sure quick answer of how to deal with an active shooter on a campus. The police are responding, public safety help is coming to your assistance, but until they get there, there are a number of choices that you have to make, and only you can make those choices.
The students need to plan, prepare, and react.
It can happen anywhere. 6 dead at Northern Illinois University. 3 dead at Louisiana Technical College. 33 dead at Virginia Tech. The risk of being struck by lightning is greater than being killed by a stranger in the classroom. But the possibility of an active shooter does exist.
But he sees it as an important detail.
What is an active shooter? And what can you do to protect yourself?
An active shooter is a gunman who's actively engaged in looking for targets, most recently on college campuses, and is somebody that will continue to look for targets and engage targets until, in police terms, they're neutralized, until they either take their own life or until a policeman ends their life.
You know, there's research that indicates and demonstrates that those individuals that pre-plan and plan and think about a plan of action like that are more likely to survive an emergency situation such as an active shooter.
We need to run a scenario through our heads of what we would do if we were confronted with a shooter. Not just on campus, if you were at a convenience store or grocery store. If you were confronted with a situation involving a gunman, what would you do?
I think I'd probably close the door and try to barricade it.
I would more than likely freeze up and lose my mind, and I wouldn't know what to do.
I would probably try and get back to my office and close and lock the door.
Get down on the floor, I guess. I don't know.
Drop to the ground. Yeah. That's about it.
I don't know what I would do.
A student has a lot on their minds. They have a tough agenda, and thinking about a shooter coming into their classroom is probably real low on their list of things to have to prepare for. So realistically, depending on the situation and a lot of training, it's a tough situation for them to have to deal with.
People ask the question of, if I were to hear terminology or I'd hear somebody discussing about having some active violence, what should I do? Is it just normal chit-chat and I really shouldn't get involved in it because it's not my business? What we ask people to do is contact the police with that information. Go to a school administrator. Make them aware of what you heard, when you heard it, and exactly what was said. So we feel confident if you're hearing these things, if you come forward with us, it may allow law enforcement and educational administrators to take some preemptive action.
In the type of situations that have happened over the last decade on college campuses and public schools, it's usually someone coming on campus. Their focus is to shoot a targeted group of people, whether it's jocks or popular students or a single classroom, and then it turns into a random act of violence as well.
Suspects grabbed the folks, took some hostage, turned from active shooter to a hostage situation.
From television, we've become familiar with highly trained special response teams that handle desperate and prolonged violent situations. In real life, these officers are skilled in weaponry and tactics. Engaging in training exercises like this one, they are trained to contain the gunman and neutralize the threat if necessary. In an active shooter situation, a gunman kills quickly and doesn't take hostages. In this situation, the responsibility is not with SWAT, but it's the first responders, those police men and women who arrive within minutes.
It is imperative when you're dealing with an active shooter to get those first responders on the scene as quick as possible.
I heard gunshots. I think someone's been hurt. Please, just send an ambulance and cops. What do I need to do? I don't know what to do. Should I run?
Well, the great thing about cell phones is everybody has them, and it gives you instant communications. When police officers are trying to respond to emergency, one of the biggest things we want to know is what are we coming into?
Are you safe right now?
Yeah.
Basically, the main things we want to know is where you are and what's happening. And then what's going to happen is those dispatchers, those public safety dispatchers for law enforcement agencies, are going to try to keep you on the line the whole time and use you as a conduit of intelligent information for responding officers.
They're shooting at Peabody. I'm behind a tree right now.
Police response is immediate. Using the information gathered from witnesses who call 911 and campus police, these first responders form a plan, and without delay, they move in to intercept the gunman as quickly as possible. But what can you do to protect yourself before the police arrive?
The best way to protect yourself against an active shooter is preparation. You just got to be mentally prepared to know what action to take in the event that you come across an active shooter. You've either got to be able to hide, to fight, or to flee, and you've got to know when's the most appropriate time to take each of those actions. There have been many examples throughout history of incidents where there have been fires and other tragic events where people sit there waiting for someone to tell them what to do instead of acting. So in this particular situation, somebody has to take a leadership role and take action.
Not all shootings will take place in the same location. It's possible that after killing in one building, the gunman could enter a second building where nobody yet knows what's about to happen.
In a hallway is an extremely dangerous situation. If the shooting is not taking place in the hallway, more than likely, after the shooter finishes in a classroom, he's going to go into the hallway or a stairwell. So it's not a good place to stay. Either get into a classroom that can be locked, or just simply get out of the building and distance yourself from that building and wait for the police.
The students should immediately lock the door and barricade the door. Immediately.
Stay calm. The door won't lock.
An active shooter scene is totally chaotic. It's going to be a very scary situation with rapid gunfire, a lot of noise, and total chaos.
The emotional trauma that would be involved if someone barged into the room, unless they had an incredible amount of training and exactly what to do, it's going to be a tough situation. It's something that we won't, advocate for every single event, but rather than be shot, I would do something.
Drop the gun! Drop the gun, police!
841 radio, suspect is down. Repeat, suspect is down. 902 to all perimeter units, hold your position. Repeat, hold your position.
Authorities confirm 3 students have been killed here on campus.
And what I need you to do is think about, if this happens to me here, if it were to happen today, right now, what would be my options and what would I do? But if you don't think about those things ahead of time, it's going to be hard to prepare. Every time you go into a restaurant, you go into a classroom setting, if you're at a movie theater, you should be thinking, if an emergency were to occur, whether it be an active shooter, a fire, any type of emergency, what would I do that would be in the best response for my safety? But if you think that, that doesn't happen here, that happens somewhere else, then you're going to find yourself at a disadvantage.
Building right behind me here. Sir, I need you guys to move down.
Think about the unthinkable, whether it's a shooter on campus or a bombing on campus. Have a plan. Think about something to give yourself a running head start to survival.
Our colleges and universities are the envy of the world. These are places where students learn about science, literature, history, and each other. Today's student must also learn life lessons not usually associated with higher education. Each student must ask himself questions his parents might not have asked in many years. What would you do if your house caught fire? Where do you seek shelter if threatened by severe weather? Students should also ask themselves, what would you do if someone were shooting in your building? The answers to all these questions are the same. Think ahead and plan to survive.